Hey guys, and welcome to another Crey tutorial. My name is Guan, and today I will be showing you how to create a lever in Crey. So a lever is a really cool function. It can be used for a bunch of different gameplay situations. For example, if you want to create puzzles, or you want to just activate stuff in general, or maybe you want to use it as flavor in your action games. It's also a really cool mechanic in Crey because the way I do it involves a bunch of different gameplay props, but in very intuitive ways. So let's see how it goes. Alright, so I've created this little lever box here, and it's a mix between some assets and some primitives. So the general idea is that we want the player to run over to the lever here and then hit a key and activate it. It's going to go down, something like that. And it's going to stay that way until the player hits the same key again. Alright, so the first thing we need is a joint rotator. The joint rotator is the gameplay prop that will help us control this lever moving between two different angles. So I'm going to position it here in relation to the lever to make it more to make it easier to understand how the rotation is actually happening. Alright, so let's say that we want it to be 0 when it's on, and we want it to be like minus 55 when it's off. And let's rotate it so that it actually points upwards, just like the lever does. And then we're going to target from the gameplay prop onto the lever. This means that now, when we turn it off and on, it's going to move. It's moving quite slow, so let's take it down a bit. And this is where we can adjust how we want it to look and feel. And the way I usually set it is I give it a transition time of 1, and I actually give it an effect as well, the timberfall effect. So if we go a little bit closer here, we can see how it looks like that. So it has a real good snap. Alright, so the next thing we want is we don't want this to be activatable all the time. We only want it to happen when the player is actually close. So let's place a sensor. Now the sensor here, I'm going to keep it quite big, but maybe you would want to reduce the size to only make it possible to activate the lever when you're really close. Right, so if we power to this one now, we can see that it moved the lever a little bit, and it's actually the opposite functionality we want. So I might have switched these around. Go minus 55 here and 0 here. There we go. Now when we go in with the player here, you can see that it switches. Okay, but this is not exactly what we want. We want to put something in between the player going close to it and the actual lever moving. We want to put some kind of input from the player. I'm going to take it from the library here. So we're going to use the input trigger for this. Alright, so let's go into the settings of the input trigger, and let's bind a custom key. Let's use the E key. This is usually the interaction key in games. And let's remove the power from this one. And now we're going to power from the sensor to the input trigger. This means that this input trigger can only be activated when the player is actually inside the sensor. And one more step. We need to put in a connector as well. Now the connector is the thing that actually turns this into a switch, because the connector has a toggle function. What this means is that when this connector gets an input, because I'm going to set this to 1, it's going to toggle whatever it's powering to either on or off. So I'm going to show it rather than try to explain it, because I think that's easier. Alright. So I'm going to power from this. So now we have power, 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 power. A nice little current here. So when I get in here with the player, I can now press E, and it's going to toggle this one off. Let's try it out. Okay, so I'm in now. I'm pressing E, and it goes down. Pressing E again, and it goes up. Right, so the functionality is there, and it's working. But let's give a little bit of a description to the player what to do. So when you're inside the sensor, we're going to tell you to press E. I'm doing this by using the text overlay prop. And let's write a message. Press E. Alright, so let's try that. The player goes in here, press E. Alright, I'm doing that, and it toggles. Perfect. So, this is actually the switch pretty much. But let's give it an extra layer of polish. We can give it a sound effect. Right, so we're going to need something snappy, something mechanical. Let's try the end. Yeah, that works. That actually works pretty well. So I'm going to say when the player presses E, we're going to play this sound. But when the player presses E, this gameplay prop, the input trigger, we want it to send power for 1 second at least. This is what this one does, minimum time powering after input. We want it to send for 1 second because we know that the transition time here is 1 second on the joint rotator. And what we can then do on the sound prop is we can say never interrupt. Never interrupt means that no matter how many times this gameplay prop gets power, it's always going to play its sound to the end until it starts a new sound. Now this prevents that someone can go in here and just spam E and get the sound constantly. So let's see how this sounds. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, so that's the lever, guys. That's it, pretty much. And I would like to show you a couple of ways at least to use this lever. So let's take a lift, and let's take something that the lift can lift, like a wooden platform. And let's say that when I activate this lever, we want this lift to go up. Right, so I'm going to take the connector, because the connector is the switch. That's the one that toggles on and off. That's the final power signal. I'm going to power the lift. Let's just make it a little bit faster, because that is boring to watch. And target to the platform, just like that. Alright. Let's see how this looks. I go in, press E, and it goes up. It's not bad. So that's one way to use it. And of course I can take it down, up, and I can take it back down again. So it is definitely a switch that you can toggle between two states. Let's just give this some sound as well. So I'm going to use the mechanical movement. I don't know how loud it is in the video, but it's really loud for me, so I just turned down the volume quite a bit. Alright, so I'm going to glue this to the platform, and then I'm going to use the play on motion feature here. I'm just going to set the threshold down to very low. I'm not sure if this is necessary, it's just something that I always do right now. Alright, so this means that whenever this moves, it's going to play a sound. And because this is going to move when we hit the lever, we know that it's going to play the sound. Alright. So there we have a very basic elevator that is controlled by a lever. Now the next thing I want to show you in terms of the lever is that you can make these puzzle systems, right? By using the connector. So let's place a connector here. Before I do anything, I actually want to just take all of this and box it. I think, is that the right box? Yes, it is. Okay, box it in this one. And let's just place a couple of these levers. Alright, let's open them up again. There we go. Alright, so let's take this connector and set it to 3. So now we can set power from each of the connectors and each of the levers to this one. And we can say that when all of these levers have been activated, we want something to happen. It could be a door opening, it could be the elevator from before, but it could also be you winning the game. So let's do that. When they've been activated, we're going to power the game completed gameplay prop. So 1, 2, 3, and the game has been won. Alright guys, so that's the lever. I'm going to box this and put it in the boxing library for you to play around with and modify or explore and use in your games. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.